It's 14 minutes after 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago, and every Wednesday, Tobago Talks. And when Tobago Talk, we listen. This morning, I'm really happy to have with us via the Zoom line. First it's space already for the new Deputy Chief Sec. She's giving us an interview sitting in her car. She pulled aside to attend with us and grant us the very first interview. She would have had a conversation with media when she received her instruments of appointment at President's House. But again, this intimate, up close, especially seeing that as Wednesday for Tobago Talks, we thank you. We can safely say newly appointed Deputy Chief Secretary of the THA, Dr. Faith B. Israel. Welcome.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. And yes, I am sitting in my car en route to another interview, so it is what it is, but I'm happy to be here. I
guess all part of the new portfolio. I mean, you would have been busy already, and now this added portfolio, and you would have said via your first interview, at least talking to media right after you received your appointment, you said that they had faith in your capacity, faith in your ability and experience to execute this new role. Have you been told just yet as to what this role and function would be?
So I'm sure that that is so this is what has happened. Within this THA, what we did, there are several what we call fifth schedule items that we are used to assigning to secretaries. That includes things like health and sports and education and so forth. As those items were assigned to other secretaries like normal. What this executive did, though, was identify some other non-fifth schedule items, so items that are usually not part of the Tobago House of Assembly mandate, to the office of the Deputy Chief Sec. And that included, for example, treating with the autonomy issue. It included dealing with diasporic relationship. It included dealing with foreign investment and so forth. So we have a situation where we have all of these additional functions that are now on the office of the Deputy Chief Sec. My team and I, which includes the Chief Secretary, my other Executive Council colleagues, what we're doing now is really looking at all of those additional functions to determine the best way moving forward. So my responsibility would still include being responsible for health, wellness, and social protection. And we will make announcements about what the other responsibilities would include, if they include any of the others that were previously under Deputy Chief Secretary. If those would probably go to the Chief Sec or go to some other secretaries, depending on where we see, depending on what we think is the best strategy going forward, given the situation that we have right now.
Understood. I want to get to what played out in the public domain. Everyone was looking at the developments coming out of Tobago. My good colleague, Chester Sombrano, was in Tobago for the special sitting when you were indeed elected in that special sitting there to step forward as Deputy Chief Sec. He said to me that frosty was an understatement. He said he could cut the tension in the room with a knife. Obviously, Mr. Duke came in, still the political leader of the PDP. We all would have seen the public shenanigans and the back and forth, as it were, and of course his resignation, causing your appointment to the role he previously held, the one he held probably up to last week around this time. So a lot would have transpired in the last couple of days. Just walk me through your understanding, your coping mechanism with what would have transpired, and if indeed you also would have tried to reach out to Mr. Duke. Was there any healing mass, any kind of trying to work this out before it came to all of this kind of public display of I guess, different...
Magnet? So what, as you said, we were all looking at this happen in the public space. We were all throwing our hands up in the air wondering what in heaven's name is happening. Because I am not sure if you saw the Chief Sec's response last week, Thursday, after our post-exec council, at our post-exec council briefing. We thought that we had dealt with the situation with the group that had gone to New York, and we had gone way above and beyond what our responsibilities were, what we agreed to do, what the group knew we needed to do, what Mr. Duke knew we agreed to do. So we were all very, very surprised by this very public uproar, this very public display of discord, for want of a better term. I have been a part of this political party since 2016. As a matter of fact, many people may not even know that when we contested the 2017 THA election, that was the first election I contested. I was the third candidate that was released, and that was done very early in 2016. And since then, I have been a very proud member of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. That's the party that I know. That's the party that I helped to build. So it has been a very difficult road these last couple of weeks. We've been watching, it's kind of like a family, and you're watching a family go through this turmoil, but it's not just happening in your household, it is happening on national television.
Yes, playing out in the public domain. And I'm sure based on your intimate and foundation, I would say, role in the party, you would have been taken aback and taken by surprise when you were given that dismissal letter as part of the executive.
Well, it wasn't even a dismissal letter. We were in a National Executive Council meeting the evening, and in essence, we were just told, I don't want all here,
How you felt in that moment?
In that moment, it was heartbreaking. It is still heartbreaking, because this is something that we built. And by we, I don't just mean me. I mean all of Tobago. I've actually been walking through and met people who are just apologizing, who are almost in tears. And I'm talking about big, grown, hardback men who are in tears saying, oh my goodness, we built this together. All of us collectively built this thing. How could it just be taken away from us like that? So there's that feeling on the ground. But that is why we insisted in the Executive Council to keep working and to keep showing the people of Tobago that even though all of this was happening on the party level, that those of us who were elected into the Tobago House of Assembly would keep that ship steady, and that we would keep doing what we needed to do to ensure that health kept functioning, education kept functioning, ComDev kept functioning. We needed to show that we could do that, and we were in fact doing that. And we would not allow, because we were elected and because we took that oath, in front of the president a couple months ago, to not allow anything to stop us from functioning. We had to continue doing that regardless of what was happening behind the scenes.
So let me ask you, for those who believe in the party, for those who put on their black and they went out there and they canvassed for you all and they were part of this new movement, this breath of fresh air in Tobago, I have to ask the question, what's the future of the party? What's the future of your involvement and somebody, of course, like Mr. Farley's involvement and all the folks who would have been part of that movement where clearly Tobago gave you all the mandate. It was an overwhelming victory, one of the biggest landslides in recent history. What's the future and what's the impact on PDP, this current impasse?
Well, I am still a member of the PDP. I have not submitted a resignation letter from membership. I have not been given a letter. I have not been told that I am no longer a member. But, we are talking to individuals on the ground. We are looking at what is transpiring, and we will make a decision based on what we think is absolutely best for Tobago. That means, it may mean getting to the direction of going into forming another party. I heard that, it was already pronounced that we already have a party and a symbol and all of that stuff.
And that's not the case.
All of that is just, this entire thing has really just been a whole lot of public talk, a lot of public rambling, and a lot of it just does not make sense.
Yeah.
A lot of it does not make sense.
Let me ask you, were you taken aback when Morris, the PNM minority in the THA, put forward his vote for Watson Duke? I heard you could have seen people jaw touching the floor when that moment happened. What happened in that moment? What was your impression of that particular decision?
Well, I was not taken aback, and honestly, I was not surprised, because Mr. Morris and his team has shown since we've come into office that they are really just interested in disrupting the system. They are just really interested in ensuring that they push back on everything that we do, everything that the administration is doing. Mm-hmm. So I was not surprised at all. I was disappointed, and I could see from even his apology after, his other colleagues were also disappointed in him, mm-hmm. and show that, it shows that they are not on island building and nation building. All you wanted to do is disrupt, and you saw an opportunity to throw something, to throw further into the fire, and you did just that. Instead of working on building Tobago, you chose to disrupt. You chose to sow more seeds of discord. And if that is what they want to do, that is up to them. We can't force people to do what they want.
I want to thank you there for that honesty. That's what I enjoy with our conversations. Always very straightforward, very frank. Before we go, though, I know you would have mentioned to me that, Tobago is close-knit. Even though people might have difference of opinions and they might draw their line when it comes to their political affiliation, the reality is many would have gone to school together, so many are neighbors, family, and sometimes the discord is able to dissipate and able to kind of soften when it comes to certain gatherings, whether it be the harvest or whatever the case. I know right now things are frosty between yourself and Mr. Duke, but tell me, what was the interaction like? Have you at any point reached out to him? Was there any kind of eye contact, any kind of conversation when that special meeting occurred a couple of days ago? Just give me that, at least your take and your perspective on that personal interaction with Mr. Duke. And if there might be interactions going forward.
Well, he sat next to me in the sitting. That is where and I now have to say, used to sit. There was no real interaction. The sitting really happened very, very quickly. By the time we were at the point of him coming in, it was really at the point of us about to start. So there has been no interaction. Mr. Duke and I went to high school together. So this is not something that started a couple of years ago for politics. We went to school together, a high school together. So I've known him for quite some time. I don't know where this will go. I do not pretend to know where the future holds, but it is what it is. We are going to move forward. We have pledged to the people of Tobago that we will take care of their affairs. We will deal with all of these other things on the sideline. What we need to have people really, really understand is those of